Title: The Honeymoon Deception. The sun was setting over the turquoise waters of the Maldives, casting a golden glow over the luxurious beachfront villa where 28-year-old Clara Bennett and her new husband Daniel were celebrating their honeymoon. It was supposed to be the perfect start to their new life together, a week of relaxation, romance, and adventure. But as the days unfolded, Clara would uncover a secret that would turn their dream vacation into a nightmare. Joining them on the trip were Clara's two closest friends, Sarah and Emily, and their respective partners. The group had been inseparable since college, and Clara had been thrilled when they all agreed to join her and Daniel for the honeymoon. But what she didn't know was that one of her friends was hiding a secret that would shatter her trust and change everything. The perfect facade. The first few days of the trip were everything Clara had hoped for. The group spent their days lounging on the beach, snorkeling in the crystal-clear waters, and indulging in gourmet meals at the resort's finest restaurants. Clara and Daniel were the picture-perfect newlyweds, their love for each other evident in every glance and touch. But as the days went on, Clara began to notice subtle changes in the group's dynamic. Sarah, her bubbly and outgoing best friend, seemed quieter than usual, often disappearing for hours at a time. Emily, on the other hand, was more animated, her laughter a little too loud, her smiles a little too bright. Clara tried to brush it off, telling herself she was being paranoid. But the nagging feeling in her gut wouldn't go away. The first clue. The first clue came during a beachside bonfire on the third night. The group was gathered around the fire, sharing stories and laughing, when Clara noticed Sarah and Daniel exchanging a glance that made her stomach churn. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but it was enough to set off alarm bells in Clara's mind. She tried to push the thought aside, telling herself she was imagining things. But later that night, as she lay in bed next to Daniel, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The discovery. The next morning, Clara decided to confront Sarah. She found her sitting on the balcony of their villa, staring out at the ocean with a faraway look in her eyes. "Sarah, can we talk?" Clara asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Sarah looked up, her expression a mix of guilt and fear. "Of course, Clara. What's on your mind?" Clara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "I need to know what's going on. I've noticed that you've been acting strange, and I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong." Sarah hesitated, her eyes filling with tears. "Clara, I don't know how to tell you this." Clara's stomach dropped. "Tell me what?" Sarah took a deep breath, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been seeing someone you know." Clara's mind raced. "Who?" Sarah looked down, her hands trembling. It's Daniel." Clara felt like the world had stopped spinning. She stared at Sarah, her mind reeling. "What are you talking about? Daniel's my husband." Sarah shook her head, her tears falling freely now. "I know, Clara. And I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. But Daniel and we've been seeing each other for months. We didn't want to hurt you, but we couldn't help how we felt." Clara felt like she had been punched in the gut. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could do was stare at Sarah, her heart breaking with every word. The confrontation. Clara stormed into the villa, her heart pounding with anger and betrayal. She found Daniel in the kitchen, his face pale as he saw the look in her eyes. "Clara, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Clara's hands trembled as she held up her phone, showing him the text messages she had found between him and Sarah. "How could you do this to me?" she demanded, her voice shaking with emotion. Daniel's face fell, his expression a mix of guilt and fear. "Clara, I can explain." "Explain what?" Clara shouted, her voice echoing through the villa. "Explain how you've been cheating on me with my best friend? Explain how you've been lying to me this whole time." Daniel looked down, his hands shaking. "I never meant to hurt you, Clara. I love you. But Sarah and we have a connection. I didn't know how to tell you." Clara felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "You should have told me before we got married. Before I spent all this time thinking we were happy." The fallout. The rest of the trip was a blur. Clara spent most of her time in her room, crying and trying to process what had happened. Sarah and Daniel avoided each other, the tension between them palpable. Emily and the others tried to comfort Clara, but there was nothing they could say to make it better. On the last day of the trip, Clara packed her bags and left the villa without saying goodbye. She couldn't bear to face Daniel or Sarah, knowing that their betrayal had shattered her trust and her heart. The aftermath. Back home, Clara threw herself into her work, determined to distract herself from the pain. She filed for divorce, cutting Daniel out of her life completely. Sarah tried to reach out, but Clara couldn't bring herself to forgive her. In the months that followed, Clara began to heal. She reconnected with old friends, started seeing a therapist, and even began dating again. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but she was determined to move forward. The new beginning. As she stood on the balcony of her new apartment, watching the sun set over the city, Clara felt a sense of peace. The honeymoon had been a nightmare, but it had also been a wake-up call. She had learned the hard way that not everyone could be trusted, but she had also discovered her own strength and resilience. The deception had shattered her world, but in its place, she had built a new one where she was in control of her own happiness. The end. Title: The Price of Ambition. The world of television production was a cutthroat industry, where talent and ambition often collided with power and privilege. For 26-year-old Sophie Bennett, it was a world she had dreamed of being a part of since she was a little girl. She had worked tirelessly to climb the ranks, starting as an intern and eventually landing a coveted position as a junior producer at one of the most prestigious production companies in Los Angeles, Silver Screen Studios. Sophie was known for her sharp mind, creative ideas, and relentless work ethic. She had a natural talent for storytelling and a keen eye for detail, which had earned her the respect of her colleagues and the attention of her superiors. But there was one secret that Sophie had kept hidden from everyone, a secret that could destroy her career and her reputation. Sophie was having an affair with her boss, Daniel Hartman, the head of production at Silver Screen Studios. Daniel was a powerful and charismatic man, known for his ability to spot talent and turn ordinary scripts into blockbuster hits. He was also married, with 2 young children, and had a reputation for being a devoted family man. Their affair had started innocently enough. Sophie had been working late one night, putting the finishing touches on a pitch for a new series, when Daniel had stopped by her office to check on her progress. They had ended up talking for hours, sharing their thoughts on the industry, their favorite films, and their dreams for the future. Before they knew it, the sun was rising, and they had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. At first, Sophie had convinced herself that it was just a fling, a momentary lapse in judgment that would never happen again. But as the weeks turned into months, their relationship deepened. They began meeting in secret, stealing moments together whenever they could. Sophie knew it was wrong, but she couldn't help herself. She was in love with Daniel, and she believed that he loved her too. But as their affair continued, Sophie began to notice subtle changes in the way her colleagues treated her. At first, it was just a few sideways glances and whispered conversations that stopped whenever she entered the room. Then, she started to hear rumors. Rumors that she was only getting ahead because of her relationship with Daniel. Sophie tried to ignore the gossip, focusing on her work and proving herself through her talent and dedication. But the rumors persisted, growing louder and more insidious with each passing day. Her colleagues began to question her ideas in meetings, dismiss her contributions, and exclude her from important projects. Sophie felt like she was being pushed to the sidelines, her hard work and talent overshadowed by the scandalous whispers that followed her everywhere she went. One day, Sophie's best friend and colleague Mia confronted her in the break room. "Sophie, we need to talk," Mia said, her voice low and serious. Sophie's heart sank. She had always trusted Mia, but she could see the doubt and suspicion in her friend's eyes. "What's going on?" Sophie asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mia hesitated, then took a deep breath. "People are talking, Sophie. They're saying that you're only getting ahead because of your relationship with Daniel. Is it true?" Sophie felt like the walls were closing in around her. She had always known that this day would come, but she had hoped that she could keep her secret hidden for just a little longer. "Mia, it's not what you think," she said, her voice trembling. Mia's eyes narrowed. "Then what is it, Sophie? Because from where I'm standing, It looks like you're sleeping your way to the top. Sophie's face flushed with anger and shame. That's not fair, Mia. I've worked just as hard as anyone else here. I deserve to be where I am. Mia crossed her arms, her expression skeptical. Maybe. But when people see you and Daniel together, they don't see a talented producer. They see a girl who's using her looks to get ahead. Sophie felt like she had been slapped. She had always prided herself on her professionalism and her ability to separate her personal life from her work. But now, it seemed like all of her hard work was being erased by the scandalous rumors that surrounded her. I can't believe you would think that of me, Sophie said, her voice breaking. I thought you were my friend. Mia's expression softened, but there was still a hint of doubt in her eyes. I am your friend, Sophie. That's why I'm telling you this. You need to be careful. If people keep talking, it's going to ruin your career. Sophie nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She knew that Mia was right, but she didn't know how to fix it. She couldn't just end her relationship with Daniel, not when she was in love with him. But she also couldn't let the rumors destroy everything she had worked so hard to achieve. Over the next few weeks, Sophie tried to distance herself from Daniel, avoiding him at work and turning down his invitations to meet in secret. But Daniel was persistent, and he could sense that something was wrong. One night, after a long day of filming, he cornered her in her office. Sophie, what's going on? Daniel asked, his voice filled with concern. You've been avoiding me, and I don't understand why. Sophie sighed, her heart aching with the weight of her secret. Daniel, people are starting to talk. They think that I'm only getting ahead because of our relationship. Daniel's expression darkened. Who's saying that? I'll put a stop to it right now. Sophie shook her head. It's not that simple, Daniel. The rumors are everywhere, and they're not going to go away just because you tell people to stop. I need to prove myself, to show everyone that I deserve to be here. Daniel reached out and took her hand, his touch sending a shiver down her spine. Sophie, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You're talented, and you deserve to be here. Let me handle the rumors. I'll make sure that no one questions your abilities. Sophie wanted to believe him, but she knew that it wasn't that easy. The rumors were already out of control, and no amount of damage control could erase the damage that had been done. She pulled her hand away, her heart breaking as she saw the hurt in Daniel's eyes. I can't believe you would think that of me, Sophie said, her voice breaking. I thought you were my friend. Mia's expression softened, but there was still a hint of doubt in her eyes. I am your friend, Sophie. That's why I'm telling you this. You need to be careful. If people keep talking, it's going to ruin your career. Sophie nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. She knew that Mia was right, but she didn't know how to fix it. She couldn't just end her relationship with Daniel, not when she was in love with him. But she also couldn't let the rumors destroy everything she had worked so hard to achieve. Over the next few weeks, Sophie tried to distance herself from Daniel, avoiding him at work and turning down his invitations to meet in secret. But Daniel was persistent, and he could sense that something was wrong. One night, after a long day of filming, he cornered her in her office. Sophie, what's going on? Daniel asked, his voice filled with concern. You've been avoiding me, and I don't understand why. Sophie sighed, her heart aching with the weight of her secret. Daniel, people are starting to talk. They think that I'm only getting ahead because of our relationship. Daniel's expression darkened. Who's saying that? I'll put a stop to it right now. Sophie shook her head. It's not that simple, Daniel. The rumors are everywhere, and they're not going to go away just because you tell people to stop. I need to prove myself, to show everyone that I deserve to be here. Daniel reached out and took her hand, his touch sending a shiver down her spine. Sophie, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You're talented, and you deserve to be here. Let me handle the rumors. I'll make sure that no one questions your abilities. Sophie wanted to believe him, but she knew that it wasn't that easy. The rumors were already out of control, and no amount of damage control could erase the damage that had been done. She pulled her hand away, her heart breaking as she saw the hurt in Daniel's eyes. Thought he was going to argue with her. But then he nodded, his expression resigned. "I understand, Sophie. If this is what you want, then I'll respect your decision." Sophie felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was quickly replaced by a deep sense of loss. She had loved Daniel, and she knew that he had loved her too. But their relationship had been built on a foundation of secrecy and lies, and it was never going to survive in the harsh light of reality. As the weeks turned into months, Sophie threw herself into her work, determined to prove herself through her talent and dedication. She worked long hours, took on challenging projects, and pushed herself to the limit. Slowly but surely, she began to earn back the respect of her colleagues, and the rumors began to fade. But the scars of the affair remained, a constant reminder of the price she had paid for her ambition. Sophie had learned the hard way that in the world of television production, talent and ambition were not always enough. Sometimes, the lines between right and wrong became blurred, and the choices you made could have consequences that lasted a lifetime. Epilogue. 2 years later, Sophie stood on the stage at the Emmy Awards, holding the golden statue in her hands. She had just won the award for Best Drama Series, a testament to her hard work and dedication. As she looked out at the audience, she felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that she had never known before. She had come a long way since the scandal that had nearly destroyed her career. She had worked tirelessly to prove herself, to show everyone that she was more than just a girl who had slept her way to the top. And now, as she stood on that stage, she knew that she had succeeded. But as she looked out at the sea of faces, her eyes landed on Daniel, who was sitting in the audience with his wife and children. He smiled at her, a smile filled with pride and admiration, and Sophie felt a pang of sadness. She had loved him once, and she knew that a part of her always would. But their relationship had been a mistake, one that had cost her dearly. As she stepped off the stage, Sophie made a promise to herself. She would never let her ambition cloud her judgment again. She would never let herself be defined by the choices she had made in the past. She was Sophie Bennett, a talented and respected producer, and she was going to make her mark on the world, on her own terms.